One gorilla versus 100 men. Who wins? Let's talk about it, I guess. I don't know. I woke up this morning and I didn't know that this was a thing. I didn't know that this was a thing people were debating over the past 48 hours or so. And, you know, I feel a little left out. Like, I didn't get invited to the party, but here I am. Whatever. Better late than never, I guess. So let's talk about this ridiculous hypothetical, this ridiculous thought experiment. And believe me, I'm not above it. You know, this. If you're familiar with this channel at all, and if you're not, you can even just briefly look at my backlog. You'll see that this is my cup of tea right here, talking about this type of shit. Hypothetical animal fights. I love it. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about one single male. Let's not bullshit here. We're talking about a male, alpha male silverback gorilla, even though that term alpha male is horribly overused. We know what we're talking about here. We're talking about the biggest, baddest gorilla that you can imagine. You're talking near 6 feet tall. You're talking well over 400 pounds or so, right? Of just raw, primal aggression and muscle. Or are we? We'll get to that in a minute. I mean, yes, of course, primal, muscle, all this. But as far as aggression goes, we'll bring that up in a little bit. But let's compare and contrast that with a human being, right? I mean, you look at the skeletons, right? For instance, there are similarities, but the differences. Oh, the differences, just in the bone density and just the overall skeletal structure, the posture. It's, you know, there is a valley of difference between even the strongest men on earth and a gorilla. And just to get it out of the way, look, dude, I don't care who you are. I don't care if we're talking about prime Mike Tyson, Bruce Lee, John Jones, Brian Shaw, doesn't matter. Any human, even the best among us, 1v1 against a gorilla, there is no prayer. Okay, even Eddie Hall or Hafthor fucking Bjornsson, Mountain from Game of Thrones, is going to appear like a child when you see if they were to grapple. Right? Like a gorilla is going to have the power to just fling you around and ragdoll you, and there's nothing you can do about it. So really, when it comes down to it, you know, these athletes, these, you know, fighters, strongmen, whatever, they may as well just be fucking Steve Urkel, because it really doesn't. The difference in some bookworm nerd versus a linebacker is going to be negligible when you're pitting them up against the strongest ape on the planet. Okay. So let's talk about real quick what makes a gorilla different. What is it that separates us? I mean, because I gotta say though, like 100v1 is such a huge disparity, and we're gonna get into that in a minute. But let's just talk about 1v1. Let's talk about what makes it such an insurmountable task for any human to physically try to handle a gorilla. Right, I just mentioned their bone density, their overall, just, you know, the musculature. I can sit there and cite stats. Many people do. You know, some of them pulled out of, you know, the fucking nether regions. Right, you'll hear the same bullshit repeated time and time again. 1,300 pound PSI. They can deadlift 1,800 pounds. They can sprint at 25 miles an hour. I'm sure you've heard all that. And, you know, that all sounds about right to me. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go back and actually look at the numbers and look at where these studies come from, but fine. That all sounds about right. But for every accurate claim made about bite force and you know, their attributes and feats and whatnot, there's a lot of bullshit too. Right? I don't know how many videos I've seen where we're talking through this scenario and we're talking about if a gorilla punches you, this is going to happen. And they can punch at this PSI and this and that. But a gorilla can't fucking punch shit. You know why? Because a gorilla can't make a fist. Okay? Gorillas don't punch. So there's a red flag right there. Anytime you hear anyone talking about a gorilla punch, they're talking about a thing that doesn't happen, that doesn't exist. Okay? This is somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. A gorilla, they'll slap you, they'll batter you, they'll swing their arms around, and that's the thing. When a gorilla engages in combat, they're not, you know, they're not fighting like a goddamn boxer or a predator, for that matter, right? You know, these creatures, they don't exist to kill. It's just not what they're wired for. Now, again, make no mistake, they're very explosive and powerful, but that power, all of their like attributes, they've kind of evolved to be able to rip limbs off of trees and just live a relatively peaceful life. That's what they do. And their dentistry, those big fangs, right? They're not built like a lion's. We can talk about bite force all day long, but the dentistry itself is not designed to crush bones like a hyena. It's not meant to sever arteries or close aortas the way a cat is meant to do. It's not meant to rip flesh from bone like a wolf or a bear. Gorillas aren't predators, right? And usually when they fight, it's all intimidation tactics, right? It's mostly theatrical. It's mostly a display. Now that not always, yes, they will injure each other. They will bite each other. But it's very, very seldom, if ever, a fight to the death. So long story short, when we're talking about the gorilla, we're not talking about a creature that is designed to kill, even though it could easily kill a, average human. Even above average human. Fine, I'll acknowledge that. And in case you couldn't tell, I think most of you can probably see the direction I'm going here. And I'm just going to come out and say it. A gorilla has no fucking chance against 100 people. And if you think otherwise, I'm going to try to be nice here. I'm not going to call you a retard. I'm not going to say you're all morons. I'm just going to try to get you to think a little bit about what it is that we're talking about here. Because just the tail of the tape, just on paper, you are talking about 400 pounds versus 20,000 pounds of biomass. Okay? We can talk about 1,300 pounds of pressure per square inch in a bite force. We can talk about 25 miles per hour in a short burst in a sprint. We can talk about deadlifting 1,800 pounds. We can throw all these numbers out there, so many of you like to do. 400 versus 20,000. Not 2,000, 20,000 pounds. Because if we were playing by averages, right? What is the average guy, right? Just somewhere just south of 6 feet tall. Somewhere around about between $160 and 200 pounds. Of course, I'm making the math a little easier on myself to just fucking, round up to 200, right? And I think especially if you're picking from America, the average guy, right? You ever take a trip to Walmart? How many of those guys that you see walking around a supermarket look like they weigh anything south of fucking 270 pounds? Okay, so I'd say that's pretty fair fucking estimate. Now, let's talk about what it is to be a human. I just talked about how the gorilla is not really physically designed to kill the way a lion or a tiger or a bear or a wolf does, right? And that's true. And the same could be said for us. We're not physically designed for that at all. Right? So again, 1v1, no fucking chance. Your arms are getting broken. Your neck's getting broken. You're going to get bit up. You're going to get shredded. Even though that gorilla's not really designed to kill, it's going to maim the fuck out of you. And it'll be brutal. Yeah. And, whatever. But what we do have is technique. We have intelligence. I mentioned how gorilla can't form a fist. We can. Mike Tyson made a living out of it. Francis Ngannou, and take your pick of boxers and MMA fighters. Right? Obviously, we know how to throw a punch, how to throw a kick. The problem is none of that shit's really going to matter. Because even if you gave Mike Tyson a clean shot, it's just really, realistically, it's just going to piss the gorilla off. It might make its ears ring a little. Mike Tyson would annoy it. But he's not knocking the fucking thing out, and he's not going to cause enough damage, right, to incapacitate a fucking gorilla. Again, going back to the bone structure and musculature. And I know it sounds like I'm kind of being self-contradictory here, but hear me out. That would be the wrong approach. So I guess this is the thing that we have to get out of the way. A couple questions. What's the battlefield here? Are we talking, we're going to throw everybody in an MMA cage with a gorilla? Is this in the jungle? Like, where is this? Are we allowed weapons? I'm going to assume not. I'm going to assume this is all hand-to-hand, because if there's weapons involved, there's no fucking question. If you give 100 men a bunch of knives and sticks and clubs and shit, that gorilla's fucked. 100%, and I doubt even many people would argue with that. So I have to assume it's bare hands on a neutral playing field, right? Like a terrain that will give neither the gorilla nor the humans the advantage. Of course, I've seen people in this stupid hypothetical place the combat in the rainforest, and I've heard people talk about, well, what the gorilla could do is he could use his natural environment to his advantage and club somebody to death and then fucking run and hide behind a tree, and then when the people are chasing him, he'll jump out of the tree, and like they're applying attributes to the fucking gorilla like he's a goddamn the Predator or something, right? Like he's gonna outcraft all the humans, which is fucking stupid, because gorillas aren't that fucking smart. Yes, they're smart compared to a lot of the other animals in the animal kingdom, but let's be honest, just as we are weak, bitch-made shit compared to a gorilla physically, they are weak, dumb, fucking bitch-made shit compared to us intellectually. So a gorilla is going to sacrifice intelligence for physical prowess. With us, it's the exact opposite. Okay? So, I mean, I think we kind of all know that. So what are we allowed as the humans? I'm assuming I'm part of this team, by the way, because I'm about as average as an average guy could be. You know, I'm not an athlete. I'm not a fighter. I'm in my mid-40s, right? You know, I know how to swing a hammer and turn a wrench. I've been in a few scraps when I was younger, like, but I'm nothing, like, I'm basically just, you know, picture your run-of-the-mill fucking mechanic or utility worker, and hello, that's me. You know, weigh about $165, soaking wet, right? I'm not gonna be, you know, very effective as an individual. But I think, again, I keep rambling, but like, are we allowed prep time? Like, I think that's going to be, you know, a difference maker here, right? Like, are the humans allowed time to coordinate an attack? Because that would be another big advantage that we would have. We would have the ability to plan out and coordinate, like a strategy, whereas the gorilla cannot do that. Now, of course, I think if that is allowed, that gives us a certain advantage. I honestly don't think we need that advantage. And I'll come up with a scenario here in a second that'll kind of show that. But, yeah, so I think ultimately, I mean, the keys to victory is it's death. It's a fight to the death. And we're going to go ahead and assume that, yes, many humans will die in the process. That's a given. Right? So it's the gorilla wins if he can kill all 100 people, and the human team wins if even one man is left standing once the gorilla dies, right? So the gorilla has to kill all of us, and all of us have to just kill that one gorilla. That is the criteria for victory. I think everybody kind of agrees on that across the board. So now how does that planning go? Your average person, because we're talking about average not just in terms of size and strength and athletic prowess, we're talking about intellect as well. Right? Your average person, which this is the paradox here, right? Just to go off on a little bit of a tangent. This is the paradox I find myself in, because so many motherfuckers seem to think the gorilla would win. It's destroying my faith in our actual level of average intelligence. Like, oh my God, like, I don't see how, maybe we are fucked. Maybe again, paradox, whatever, ignoring that. It's going to be a problem for some guys, because, you know, we're not talking about a bunch of fucking soldiers here necessarily, right? Like, we're not all William Wallace or Attila the Hun or fucking like a bunch of drunken Vikings ready to die and go to Valhalla. There's going to be some motherfuckers in the group that are like going to really not want to be at the front line here. Because there has to be some, no matter what way we slice this, there's going to be some sacrificial lambs. So I guess the goal would be to sustain as much life as we can, right? To find a strategy that will allow us to kill the gorilla with as few casualties as possible. Now, one strategy that would definitely work in just terms of getting this shit over with is just dogpile. Just immediately fucking dogpile. Forget punching, kicking, fucking any of that. Just everybody fucking dogpile the gorilla. And there's nothing it's going to be able to do. Yes, it's going to fucking... The first guy that gets close to it is getting grabbed and bit and smashed. And immediately thereafter, that gorilla has 20,000 pounds of fucking assholes just fucking suffocating it, and it's dead within a minute. It won't be able to breathe. It won't be able to move. I don't give a fuck how strong you think a gorilla is. It ain't bench pressing 100 men off of it. That's game over. The problem with that is, of course, a lot of the guys are going to die too, because the gorilla's not the only one getting suffocated. So if the goal is to preserve as much human life as possible, well, that's probably not the best strategy, but it is a surefire way to victory. Another strategy that one could take is split up in parties of like, whatever, I don't know, 3, 5, 10, like smaller groups, and try to get the gorilla to chase you, right? Try to wear it down. You know, try to avoid contact with it, harass it, frustrate it. Okay? And then, you know, yeah, it's probably going to be able to, it's faster than you, it's bigger, it's more athletic, it's going to snag a guy. And once it snags the first guy, it doesn't matter how much his buddies are trying to fight that gorilla and, you know, get it off, it's probably not going to work. That guy, the first guy that gets grabbed, he's toast. And we're just going to have to accept that. Maybe you can try not to be that first guy, but whatever. I mean, somebody's getting fucking grabbed, somebody's going to fucking die. And then it's just up to us to keep it up. Keep harassing this fucking thing. Get it to chase you. Chase it. You know, here's the other thing. I mean, this whole situation is completely unrealistic, okay? Because in real life, like if a gorilla just happened upon a tribe of like 100 men, like nobody's engaging, okay? A gorilla doesn't want that kind of smoke. Most humans don't want that kind of smoke. They're just gonna, oh fuck, dude, I ain't getting close to that thing. And that thing ain't gonna want shit to do with us either. Okay, it's gonna run away. The moment people get aggressive, even if like 3 people charged the gorilla, it would confuse it and the thing would try to get the fuck away until you closed in on it and had no choice but to defend itself. And then, yeah, it's gonna fucking forearm you to death or whatever the fuck. Grab you, bite you, maul you. But, so I just don't know how realistic are we trying to make this? Right? Because, like, if we're all bloodlusted, like all humans and gorilla, it's a fight to the death. Every fucking, you know, creature in that octagon or in that cage or in that jungle or whatever is dead set on fighting to the death. Well, if that's the case, then we go back to the first scenario and everybody just fucking bum rushes and dog piles the thing because they don't care about dying. They're not afraid. They're just going to fucking grab it and kill it, right? You know, and of course the gorilla is going to do the same. It's going to try to tear as many arms off and limbs off as it possibly can before it eventually dies. But if we're invoking any kind of realism in here, like a gorilla will panic, right? Compared to humans, you know, we can sit here and play this game about, oh, compared to a gorilla, humans are fucking weak shit. Yeah, okay, yeah, like I said, physically, yes, but conversely, like gorillas are weak shit compared to us mentally, right? Like, again, I've seen geese freak the fuck out of gorillas and chase them, right? So that, you know, there's a lot of dynamic, a lot of intangibles to think about here. But again, for the sake of the argument, in fact, I think the gorilla can use a buff here, right? Because I'm kind of being hard on him. Let's just say the gorilla's bloodlusted, but the guys aren't, right? The men aren't even fucking, like, there's fear involved. Still, I gotta be honest. Here's another strategy. Just fucking sit there. 100 guys, just fucking sit there and let the gorilla fucking run roughshod. How many guys you think a gorilla can maul to the death? How many? Or not even to the death, just incapacitate. How many men could a gorilla beat the shit out of to the point of being incapacitated 100%? Before it starts to get tired, right? If you think a gorilla can just fucking kill 100 people one after the other in like one go, you're out of your fucking mind. These are not like, again, this is where I'm like, you watch too many fucking movies, read too many fucking comic books, play too many video games. They don't have unlimited stamina. This isn't fucking King Kong or Mighty Joe Young or some bullshit, right? A gorilla will get tired. And it'll get tired pretty fast. You know, having all those fast twitch muscle fibers comes at a cost. You've seen people in the octagon, like Bob Sapp or whomever, fucking get tired pretty quick. To deploy all that kind of energy, to utilize all that explosive power, It comes at cost of oxygen. They don't have the endurance to keep that shit up. So I think, again, a smart strategy that I think most men could get on board with was, well, we'll try to distract it. We'll try to get it to chase us around. When it starts moving one direction, this little group here will cut them off and try to distract them away and confuse the shit out of it and make it, it's going to fucking wear itself out. Then, whether you want to dogpile or whether you want to jump in one at a time, however you want to fucking do it, you're dealing with a much more weakened animal, right? A tired gorilla is not the same as one coming straight out of the gate, okay? A gorilla, and look, it can only engage one person at a time, really, realistically. I mean, it might be initially fast enough to deal with two people, but it's not as though, it's not a fucking octopus. It can't grab 8 people at the same time. Now, again, punches, kicks, none of that's going to fucking hardly do anything. At least not initially. But if you get enough guys, if you get that gorilla just tired enough to where 3, 4, 5 guys can pin it down, and then a few more guys can start kicking it in the dick and kicking it in the head and all that stuff, the fucking thing's going to die. Even if he manages to wipe out 30 guys, he's still got 70 guys to deal with. Right? And you don't have to be fucking Brock Lesnar in order to do enough damage over time that is going to eventually incapacitate and or kill that gorilla. I'm just I shouldn't be surprised, but I'm a little bit surprised at how many people are just as certain as I am, speaking with just as much conviction as I am, in the other direction. The amount of people who think that this is a one-sided, lopsided fucking matchup in favor of the gorilla, I don't know. I don't know what it is, okay, about these animals. Chimps, too, is fucking the two most overhyped, glazed up fucking animals in the entire animal kingdom. One of the debates that I've been in, I don't know how many times, is gorilla versus grizzly bear. That one's been going on for who knows how long. And I can't believe the amount of people that think a gorilla has even a small sliver of a chance. It does not. I think it just has to do with a couple different things. People are they're just misinformed, uneducated. You just don't understand what these creatures actually are. Your knowledge of these beasts is based on hearsay, Hollywood, fantasy, bullshit. Okay? And I think the other part of it is we look at a gorilla or a chimpanzee and we see a lot of ourselves. I mean, they're our primate cousins, right? We share a common ancestor. And, we kind of, again, we want to root for them against, say, a grizzly bear. But it's just not happening. I mean, because, physical attributes aside, when people talk about, well, a gorilla is stronger than a bear. Strength is such a difficult thing to measure amongst animals, first of all, okay? You can't sit a grizzly bear down and make it do squats for you, okay? You can't make a gorilla sit down on a fucking Joe Weider bench machine and see how much it can bench press. In fact, most estimates that we do have show that they're not actually all that impressive on a bench. When it comes to pushing force, gorillas aren't very impressive at all. Now, pulling, that's different. They're very exceptional at that. So these animals are, again, evolved for a very specific lifestyle, as are we all. And when I say we, I mean all the, megafauna walking the earth today. Not even just megafauna, all life evolves a specific way for a specific lifestyle. The lifestyle of a gorilla is a vegetarian primate. It's a big, strong one, but it ain't designed to kill. It doesn't have the endurance to see it through a sustained fight. Whereas that's the one physical attribute that we do have over gorillas, is our endurance. We can go for, I don't know. Average guys today, though, hold on, I'm thinking out loud here. As oh man, my pack and a half of Pall Malls a day are kind of slowing me down considerably compared to, say, my forebears. But you get what I mean, right? Like humans, we don't have all the explosive muscle that like a gorilla has, but the muscle that we do have, the lifestyle that we have evolved for gives us, more endurance, more stamina. And with 100 of us, we don't even have to all work in unison. Like we can kind of take turns, like getting a gorilla to chase you this way, that way, whatever. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here. This is a lopsided matchup, and it's in favor of the humans. In fact, I see no scenario. I see no scenario in which the gorilla gets out of this alive. And the scenarios that I have heard put forward talks about the gorilla will rip your arms off. Literally, they can rip you in half. They're literally as strong as 20 men. They'll literally breathe fire through their ass and fucking incinerate the entirety of the group. You guys are pulling bullshit out, man. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you saw a gorilla attack anything, anywhere, at any time? When was the last video evidence you've seen of a gorilla fighting another animal? Well, probably you've seen them fighting other gorillas. And what do those fights look like? They flail around. Yes, it's fast and it's intimidating because of their size in that. And they do look scary. They are good at that. How many times have you seen like serious injury result to that other gorilla? Like it's all theatrical. It's all intimidation tactics. It's all mostly for display. Very rarely, if ever, do they ever fight to the death or even serious injury. Man, it's just they don't have it in them. And I know we like to think that they can literally pull your arm straight off, like it's like Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th, and it's comic book level bullshit, okay? It's not happening. Yes, they're strong enough to rip your shoulder out of its socket and fling you around, like I said, kind of maybe do like the Incredible Hulk Loki thing to a certain degree, but it ain't ripping your arm off and choking you with it. And it doesn't have the intelligence. I've heard other people say, it could grab your skull and literally squeeze it like a grapefruit. Could or would? Because even if it could, it won't. It doesn't have fighting technique. That's the other thing. People act like gorillas are going to fucking Bruce Lee like 100 people or something. Like it's going to throw a roundhouse kick. It's going to block this punch. It's going to throw a right hook. It's not going to do any of that shit. Gorillas don't know how to fight. Okay? They don't know how to fight. They don't have the tools to fucking withstand an assault from 100 people. If you want to make this a more fair fight, get the gorilla out of there and throw a fucking, I don't know, a moose into the equation. Because then that might be a little bit different. But I don't know. Let me hear it in the comments. I'm sure I'm going to get bitched at. I'm sure I'm going to be met with some disagreement. I'm game for it. Let's hear it in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.